Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to a special Anfield Index Pro Plus podcast today with the news that Darwin Nunez is very, very close to signing, or maybe when we release this, he's already signed, because literally it could be any moment that this happens. We thought we'd get together with fans from around the world, and especially specifically Uruguay fans, obviously right now. The perspective from the Uruguay fan is important, and so we thought we'd get together, and I'm really, really excited to introduce to you Alvaro from Uruguay Football English, and you can follow him on Twitter at Uruguay Foot ENG. Alvaro, welcome to Anfield Index Pro. How are you doing?
Gags, very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Superb. So firstly, let's get some background on yourself, because you don't sound Uruguayan, you sound like you're Canadian, because I know you're from Canada. That's what you've told me. So a little bit of background on yourself, my friend, and then we can the listeners would love to hear a bit about you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Uruguay, although I did come to Canada roughly when I was about 2 years old. Moved around in Canada, a little bit sort of the French part of Canada, Montreal, and finally settling in Toronto, where I'm at now. So I sort of had a difficult time growing up trying to follow football in the early years, pre-internet. But ever since we found a way, I started getting closer and closer, obviously, to Uruguay's football culture. And I don't know, I've always felt like I developed like a sense of, sort of like an outsider's and insider's perspective on Uruguayan football, mostly because I was raised for so many years in the West as well. So in general, since then, I've cultivated that passion, I could say, which is very close to my family. And since then, I've tried to be kind of a mediator, basically, translating news, history, culture, traditions, etc., via Twitter and sometimes via YouTube.
And I have watched some of your YouTube vids as well, which are excellent. So do check out Alvaro there as well. Mostly all about Uruguayan history, football history and stuff. So you learn something basically. But Alvaro, we're here to talk about something special, and I can see because obviously we're on Zoom here, recording audio only, but I can see you're wearing a retro Liverpool shirt.
Yes.
And I think it's from one of our great Uruguayan players, our only great Uruguayan player, should I say, at the moment, Luis Suarez, the Warrior version red shirt, I can see. So this is kind of like the rekindling of a love affair. We're going to fall back in love with each other here, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely agree with that being the greatest, Uruguayan players play for Liverpool. I'm assuming there could be some fans of Sebastian Coates, but I think obviously, yes, Suarez. I am, the specifically is the 2013-14 season, which was, notably, that was an amazing season. Liverpool finished second, and pretty much every Uruguayan has incredible memories of that one season. But not only just that, though. I think the connection began in 2011. I always found it fascinating, to be honest, because I really found it was sort of like this sort of really late blooming sort of unification between two, in my opinion, like traditional football cultures. There's a lot of history involved, and for many, many years, they never really kind of, just kind of bumped into each other. There was never Intercontinental Cup match. Naturally, that would have been rare in itself. But I think with Suarez, though, a lot of people really took to Suarez in Uruguay, even when he was much younger. He was in Diego Forlan's shadow early on, but I think a lot of fans actually started falling for him because of his uncharacteristically he's very, very competitive. He's sort of a character. One of those players I think that's been often described as, you love him when he's on your team. You really do not like him when he's on the opposing
team.
What?
That's very true, Amar, because when he went to Barcelona, he faced us. We didn't really like him very very much anymore. When he was against us, scoring against us, we were all like, oh my God, this is what it was like to be on the other side, you know? But yeah, when he's with you, geez, you become an army with him, don't you? You follow him through thick and thin.
Oh yeah, and you know, I have considered that as well. You know, the thought, for example, I remember from that particular series you just mentioned. You know, he was, you know, loudly arguing with Andy Robertson in both legs, right? And he was really getting in his face. And I remember just thinking myself, if I was a Liverpool supporter, I would have been furious seeing that, right? But then again, you know, seeing that from that one match from the Barcelona perspective, I'm seeing Suarez like, wow, look at him just defend the club, you know, defend his teammates, you know, so vigorously. So it's really, really interesting. And I try to also, you know, naturally, I know, you know, obviously there's a lot of emotional attachment with Luis Suarez with the Uruguayans, but I do also try to look at it from the, you know, opposing team's perspective to see,
yeah, you've got an objective view, and that's very, very important. I mean, we do a lot of football analysis on this channel, and I think the objectivity is the key. And when you say something like that, you can see, you know, football's very tribal, so we get to see we become very tribal. But when you say it like that, he's doing the right thing for his club, right? Where he's paid for, where he's at the moment, you know, he's playing there at the moment. He's celebrated against us, stuff like that. And we always hate it when someone doesn't celebrate. Like if Mo Salah is playing for us and he doesn't celebrate against, you know, Roma or against Chelsea in the past. I mean, until they were racist against him, and then the fans were. Then he just celebrated every goal against them. But at the start, you know, you don't celebrate. You're like, come on, just celebrate. It doesn't matter. Right. It doesn't matter. You don't have to show that respect. You show that respect in a different way if you want, you know, by clapping the fans or whatever. You can show that respect in many different ways. Whereas Suarez is like, well, I'm here now. You're my past. Well, and you know, and online he's always nice, you know, about Liverpool. You know, like if he's on Twitter or you know, he won't say anything bad. It's when he's on the pitch, he's gonna have to be him because literally that's why he's loved, right?
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is actually, I remember that particular series because, you know, famously, and I remember, or infamously from Liverpool, when he scored in the first leg, you know, he really celebrated. I remember, though, there was an interview earlier that week, and they actually asked him if he would celebrate against Liverpool. And he actually said he would only do it in this occasion because it was a Champions League semi-final. So I've actually seen Suarez, when he scored against Barca, for example, he did like the forgive me sign, which is, you know, you occasionally do see the players do. So I don't know. I don't know if Suarez would actually celebrate against Liverpool if it was any other type of match. I think that was the one, but I would hope at least, you know, because I think, I don't know, for me at least, maybe this is just me. You know,
I missed that, so that's really interesting to know. But as we said, there's already this link between Liverpool and Uruguay, and it's about to be rekindled. And I saw one of your tweets where you said Liverpool were just about to have 3 million followers or 3 million fans again. You know, so all of their social media is going to get 3 million more people following them, or however many of football fans out the 3 million. But
it's you know, massive percentage. I can
exactly, and all because they're on the verge, or already have, depending on when you're listening to this, because a young boy, 22 years of age, Darwin Nunez, is about to sign for Liverpool. Now he's currently at Benfica, but it would be really great for our listeners if you could go through some of his background story. Really, it'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Darwin Nunez was born in 1999, and the department of Artigas, Uruguay is separated into departments. Usually, you hear provinces or states, and he actually was raised in pretty difficult circumstances. So, just to kind of give you an impression of how difficult it was. Firstly, whenever you read about where he was raised, it's considered one of the poorest regions in that particular department. Secondly, he was actually raised right by a river that is known for flooding whenever it rains a lot. So people in his community, including his family, would often lose like a lot of pieces of property based on whether this river would flood or not. So as you can see, you know, he was, I suppose, lucky enough not to be raised with too many siblings in a massive house. He only had one brother. He has one brother still living. His name is Junior Nunez. And this man was actually a huge influence in Darwin's career. I'll go a little bit on him a little bit later. His mother, just to show you in a sense how, you know, difficult things were for his family, his mother used to collect plastic bottles and sell them. And his father was a construction worker, essentially living day to day and taking jobs as they came. Now, the big moment for Darwin came when he was about 13, 14 years old. What happened was in Uruguay, there's two big clubs, Nacional and Peñarol. And what happens is what they do is instead of sending scouts all over the country, which they still do, but that's a practice that most of the time you see in other parts of the world. I would say mainly in Europe, even Asia, North America, for example, I would imagine. But in Europe, what they do is they actually bring players from these departments to Montevideo. They'll actually organize excursions. They'll bring them in buses, maybe 10 buses. They'll host them for a month and a half. And this is actually what happened to Darwin and his brother, Junior. So they spent roughly about a month and a half in Peñarol. One day, Junior tells him, I'm not cut out for this. I'm going to go back. I'm going to start working in Artigas. Darwin, I think you should stay. I actually see something in you. You look like you could actually make it as a professional. Apparently, this was a shock to Darwin. Darwin didn't even consider himself. He just kind of went just to try out. So this was a big moment, maybe the first moment of many where his brother actually ended up saving his career early on. So Darwin ends up joining Peñarol's youth ranks in 2013, and he plays there for about 2-3 years. And in 2017, he has maybe one of the most important moments of his career. And considering it's usually a horrible moment in anyone's career, he suffers a ACL tear. So at this point, Darwin starts seriously considering retiring from the game. So now we're in 2017. We're basically on the verge of him debuting professionally. And I'm not sure, have you heard, because I know Liverpool fans recently, they really got excited with a quote recently with an ex-manager comparing him to Suarez and Cavani. Have you heard of this online at any point?
No, I missed that one.
Oh, okay. I can mention this as well. I have the quote. It went around, and yeah, it's very, very interesting. It was the manager that brought him up to first division. His name's Leo Ramos. He was managing Peñarol, but the thing that actually surprised him, and this is actually a thing that's key with Darwin, not only with this manager, but his next 3 managers, is his mental fortitude to get over this ACL tear. So apparently Darwin had to almost reinvent himself in his playing style. And I mean, to say that the managers were impressed is to put it lightly, because you often don't hear this level of praise for coming back from an injury. But the fact that they had to really, really promote this, they were really, I don't know, it really kind of seemed like from the heart whenever this manager would say that. So Darwin actually ends up debuting in 2017 in the Uruguayan League, and he ends up actually basically fighting through a knee injury and another surgery over these 2 years. He doesn't play much. He only plays 14 matches, or he has 14 appearances, and he only scores about 4 times for Peñarol. His big moment, though, was at this point, I think, the under-20 team. So this is a really, really, really big moment. Darwin ends up actually participating in the under-20 2019 World Cup, where he scores 2 goals, actually. Have you heard of the first one he scored against Haaland? Particularly, I think a lot of the press is mentioning these days because he debuted in that World Cup against Norway, and it happened to be Haaland.
No way, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's been mentioned by a few circles, I noticed. And the irony was that the whole media for that match was about Haaland, I remember. And Darwin ends up scoring a goal, and I think he was named man of the match, and he was tremendous in that match. So, that was maybe the first time that I think fans really...
You're going to get the right one? We're going to get the right one, folks?
Sorry?
I'm just telling the subscribers we're going to get the right player. We're going to get the right one.
Oh, well,
I'm getting Darwin, and we're not getting Haaland, so that's good.
From the bottom of my heart, I really do hope so, for sure. One of the things that actually is interesting, that if I were to mention his psyche at this point. So before the 2019 Under-20 World Cup, he had let's just say a struggling Under-20 South American Championship. I think Uruguay finished 3rd. It wasn't a great campaign, but Oscar Tabarez, he was Uruguay's manager for the last 15 years until recently. He had an interview, and about maybe, I don't know, this would have been about a year ago, he mentioned how cruel the press was, the media, to Darwin when he was in that Under-20 South American Championship, and apparently that devastated him. But he said he noticed something incredible. He said his potential to reinvent himself and his mental fortitude was actually, he said, extraordinary. And he then sort of uses Darwin over and over in this anecdote, because Tabarez always likes to say that the one player he trusts is the one who's able to fail and reinvent himself stronger than ever, because he says that takes real mental strength. And he actually mentions Darwin and Luis Suarez as like 2 rare examples of players who continuously do that. So, I mean, from here, I'm trying to give you an impression of why it is that people are rating him.
That was around 2017, you said, right?
Yeah, well, this would have been actually that. Well, the first time, so the ACL tear was 2017. The under 20 South American Championship would have been 2019. So roughly plus friendlies would have been 2018-19 when he would have been in that under
So
20.
there were rumors, or I read somewhere, that Luis Suarez had been saying to Barcelona since 2017-18, make sure you keep an eye on this lad. Make sure you keep an eye on Darwin, and it's just so interesting how that all works out with, the manager saying all these things as well, that he made a big, basically, impression on some, the management, and then some stars, Uruguayan stars as well, legends even. And that's massive, right? At a young age, that's huge.
Absolutely, especially at this age. I mean, because it is sometimes I try to take things into context. Okay, how old is Darwin now? How good was Cavani at this age? And I've been recently, trying to, just sort of try to like set my expectations in a sense, right? But from what everyone has been noticing is that his development is essentially on par or even a little bit ahead of players like Suarez or Cavani at this age. And I think that's why there is excitement, because he is developing at the expected rate. Although I don't believe personally that, because what I get nervous about is, you see that price tag and you think, my goodness, this player better start banging in hat tricks like every other week at this point, right? But the thing is, I think the idea is, from when I hear, for example, Benfica's old manager, Jorge Jesus, he mentioned that as well. He was talking about in the context of how old he is. Yeah, he is. I mean, this guy's like a diamond. Oh my God. It's like, if we can fix a few things, then wow. We have something here. So I'm hoping that's what Liverpool has noticed as well. And Jurgen Klopp.
Oh, absolutely. He's only 22. And for a striker, that's a very young age, Alvaro. At the end of the day, Suarez and Cavani, I think, bloom late in their careers. They get to their peaks where maybe later on. Sometimes footballers are peaking a little bit earlier now. Some players are peaking early. I mean, luckily, Mo Salah and Sadio Mane peaked 27, 28, 29-ish like now. So if he does that, then that's great. But Suarez was going till 30s, mid-30s, or his peak was like after 30, I think, maybe, or around 30 when he was going crazy at Barca. He was definitely after he left us, which was and he was with us for 3 years, 4 years, something like that. So I mean, I suppose it's down to how much football you've played when you're young. So if if Darwin ends up playing a lot of football now, then his peak will come a little bit earlier, maybe. But I think those guys they peaked a little bit later. So it's all depends. It's going to be interesting to see. But if you're saying he's already doing better than some of these guys were at their age, then that's a good sign, I think.
I would say so, yes. Well, I mean, to give you an example, Cavani at 23. So Darwin is actually turning 23 this month. I think it's like June 24th. So Cavani at 23, he was at the 2010 World Cup, and he started for, I would say, most of the games for Uruguay. But at the time, he was playing for Palermo. So he was on the verge of going to Napoli on his loan. And he did really well that first year, but he didn't explode until the Cavani we started to know, until maybe a year later. So imagine that I remember Cavani when I saw him in 2010 at the World Cup. I remember just feeling that he was still like an unfinished product, even at 23, which you would consider, players would have, got into their groove at this point, maybe reached, I don't know, some players might reach their peak, who knows? But I remember, his rate of improvement after that World Cup was astonishing. It was like, I don't know, almost everything that you would see him do wrong suddenly was corrected. And that would also lead to an increase in confidence for the other attributes that he had, which he was already good at, whatever it was, finishing, et cetera, positioning, tactical knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact is, I remember it was almost like on a week by week basis, I saw finally Cavani explode in the way that I was imagining that he was going to. So the thing is, with Darwin, I'm noticing that, certain things that Cavani would do as well in that age. But like I said, it's the fact that I did witness that. I saw Cavani go from what I thought was like, wow, he doesn't seem, to be the player that the media is pertaining to that he would be yet, et cetera, et cetera. Like the fact that I actually did experience that, I have that optimism with Darwin. I hope that, especially under a manager like Jurgen Klopp. I mean, you cannot have that.
What you just said. That's a key point. That's the key point that you just said there about Jurgen Klopp. At the end of the day, it was around this age when Lewandowski joined him at Dortmund. So it was a similar age. So what he did for him in terms of, his progress and how he changed and what he became, he gives Klopp that credit. And so that's the exciting part, that when players come to play for Jurgen, they're kind of like freed. They kind of like become whatever they want to do. They become that, I don't know what he does, but that freedom, that confidence is there in the player for them to go and just express themselves. So if he's the real deal, like what everybody feels and what you're saying, then he's going to have that freedom to go and express all of that. And from all the goals that I've watched and the touches, and he's definitely got room for improvement. But the ceiling must be so high with Jurgen involved, and that's the exciting part, right? Getting these two together, and at this young age, I mean, the sky's the limit.
It almost seems like, I mean, with the team Liverpool has as well, I mean, you have Luis Diaz exploding now, right? It almost seems like the pieces are coming together at the right time. And yeah, no, you're right. It is palpable. I mean, just the excitement. I mean, without even taking Darwin into account, I'm just imagining the team around him. I mean, in general, the way Liverpool plays, the way they press, everything. So yeah, no, I know. It's just, as a football fan, I mean, your imagination just runs wild, and it's something I can't wait to see develop, to be honest. It's very, very, very exciting.
Right as well, mate. It's exciting talking to you and getting that. Yeah, I'm feeling your excitement, so I'm getting buzzing as well. So where were we anyway? We got to, he was the under 20s, was it? Where were we?
Yes.
I jumped in, sorry.
No worries. So he ends up going to Almeria, actually, second division Spain. And I mean, this was a massive moment. So, the thing was, for the 2 years he was with Peñarol, he did play very well, but, he, like I said, he didn't play often. He would miss for every game he played, he would miss 3, let's just say. And he goes to Almeria 2019. They actually signed him for 5 years, and they signed him for 6 million euros, from at least the source that I got. And he actually bagged 16 goals in his first season, which is, considered very good. He was very young at that point. He was still under 20. So then the big change happened. The big moment, I think, when people really started to notice him, 2020, he signs for Benfica for 24 million euros. At the time, was the most expensive transfer. And this is actually very interesting. So Darwin, it took him a little while to actually adapt. Not to say he played badly. I remember, and this is very specific, I actually had this noted, his first 4 matches, he has 5 assists. And I remember the Portuguese media was even like, well, this is great. He's doing really well. He definitely looks like he's quality, but where are the goals? We're waiting for this, right? Et cetera. But whatever. I mean, people were noticing, okay, 5 assists, and some of the press was saying, yeah, he is taking a little while to develop, et cetera, et cetera. But that year he had a stand-up performance, actually. But just to point out, his first goal was actually in late October. So just to show, I mean, I'm just saying, maybe this could be a thing that happens. Maybe it does take him a little while to get used to certain leagues. It's certainly, he did actually need a little bit of time in Spain, second division, although he did score 16 goals that season, which, personally, I do think is a good amount, but, anyways. And then, something really awful happened to him around December 2020. This was really, really big. He got COVID, and COVID actually had a massive effect on him in that season. He ends up not scoring for 4 months. And I remember specifically people were saying, they were actually talking about him on Twitter, online, journalists saying his touch was off, he seemed thinner, he had lost a lot of weight, et cetera. So it took him quite a while to actually get back into his form. Finally finishes the season after 4 months of not scoring, and he ends up actually grabbing the number 2 most assists in the Portuguese league. Finishes the league only with 6 goals and qualifies to the Champions League playoff round, leading Benfica to 3rd place. Now, after this, obviously, we get to the current year, or the past year, this just past season, which is 2021-22. And I think this season is obviously, he had his spotlight on him. So I would imagine that, it's not necessary overall to describe the season in detail, but we know what happened, right? He was integral in taking Benfica to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, where they lost to Liverpool. And essentially, yeah, he won Player of the Year in Portugal, playing very well. So, beyond that, his international career, he only has about 2 goals in 11 matches. And he's pretty much consolidated himself as either a starter for Uruguay or at least a very, very important substitute. I mean, it still waits to be seen whether Suarez and Cavani will be starting at the World Cup this year. But yeah, that's essentially, this is, unless I missed something, this is where Darwin is at right now.
You know what was interesting was the assists put talk in for the year before, because that's still very important, to be able to create big chances. And I think last year apparently he created 10 big chances at Benfica as well, which is no mean feat when you're scoring that many goals. And you got 4 assists, but that means people are missing those chances that he's creating, those big ones. At Liverpool, you create a big chance, you're going to have a player normally scoring, or at least you're going to have a player with some quality on the ball that's coming up on that big chance, a Mo, a Diaz, a Jota, or Bobby, or someone else, in the team that's coming onto it. So if he's doing things like that, that's going to be really key. And I think, it's very interesting to see that he's also got that creative spark then, at least, or something you don't see maybe in the stats, but that there is that opportunity there that could happen next year. So I think, like you're saying about this October stuff and that, I actually think the way that we create chances in the team and the amount of creativity we've got in the team with the fullbacks and Trent and Robertson, and then, from midfield, deep midfield, if anyone plays against us with a high line, which they rarely do, but if you're playing one of the big teams, which I think maybe, I don't know how the fixture is going to turn out, but if we're playing any big teams early on, I think he'll get a chance or two in those games, And at the end of the day, what we need is when we play a low block, is we need someone who can finish in the box. A lot of our players at the moment, they're wide forwards really, and Bobby would normally just come out of the box, and if it's Jota who scores phenomenal rate, to be honest, Diogo, also not natural though. Not a natural, number 9, or should we say in the box striker. Whereas you look at Darwin, and I think he averages most of his touches inside the box, which and that's the key, right? You want someone who's going to be sticking around in there and have an option for you, take defenders away from others and create those opportunities for those around. And if there's a Diaz, Jota, Mo around, they're going to finish something, or he's going to be preying on those little tap-ins, that blocks that come off defenders or goalkeepers, which we miss. We don't have many people doing that at the moment, but we score loads of goals still. So if you add this, it's going to be a different kind of perspective to our play and to our team, which we haven't seen for a long time. We play with wide forwards really, and a 9 that drops deep a lot in Bobby, so it's going to be very, very new, very different for Liverpool fans. And I actually think he's going to be fine, and he might just fly from game one. So just because of how much we put in set pieces wise, everything, corners, free kicks, we have some incredible set piece takers. And if they've got another one to hit, we already got VVD, Matip, and then sometimes Konate. Lately, Konate has just been amazing as well towards the end of the season. So, you got these kind of options in the box. They can't defend all of them, surely,
No, but I totally, just saying this, I'm thinking that I thought Liverpool was such a complete team last year, but I think you're right. Actually, I think he could provide that other level of, I was thinking of the actual word. It's not I'm thinking like almost like a 3D concept, like building on, for example, if I were to give you, there's a really great FIFA.com documentary on the 1970 World Cup final between Argentina and the Netherlands. And at one point they have, I think it was, Ardila. So I think him, he played for Tottenham in the 1980s, of course. And he just said that it's like, if you can't win pretty, you have to start winning ugly. So he says that Argentina couldn't break down the Netherlands for most of the match. And what they did was they just started launching in the box, and Kempes, he just said it was just route one, but he says that's sometimes what you need. And he says we had to kind of bring that about ourselves and recognize that there has to be another way, another level. If we can't, obviously, attack or penetrate a team in the way where we can with whatever the way we were playing. Who knows, we're playing with wide forwards, who knows? But yeah, just the fact that you have someone with that power, and he has this acceleration, speed. The one thing I noticed, and this is actually the quote, if you want, he said this about 3 days ago. This was his first manager at Peñarol. I'll read it right now. I translated it to English, and it says, Darwin has the power that Suarez had to go all out, to go to the clash and to fight with every rival. Though I do think he's a more athletic type of player like Cavani. I think he's more physical, smarter, but in a way he's a union of those two types of players. So the thing is, one thing that I think, if I'm not mistaken, but I think Liverpool fans appreciated, was that Suarez would chase down this would be minute 95. You're winning 3-0. Suarez would chase down a defender, until Darwin does that too. He loves the fight. He's like the one guy who doesn't put his head down when you're losing 3-0. And that's another thing that for me, if I'm looking for, because you have the attributes that you're expecting a good striker to have, but if I'm looking for those very specific, little check marks that I would love a player to have, I would definitely have that as one of my top things I love. And I think it's one of those things that I think Liverpoolians, love as well in general. Uruguayan football culture is very about this. And I think it's kind of known internationally, but yeah, the whole get stuck in, physicality, spiritual aspect of the game in a sense is very much appreciated. So if Darwin can offer that, I will be very, very happy, at least in that regard, because I think it's just something in general that Uruguayans are very proud of, and love to.
Not only Uruguayans, I think English football fans, the ones in the stadiums, they really appreciate someone who's going to work work their arse off for their team and never give up. And I think that's one thing from an English supporter perspective, but from a Liverpool Football Club and how this team is perspective, they literally, that's what they're called. They're called mentality monsters by Klopp. So to add another mentality monster to the roster, to the squad, as you would say roster, as we would say squad, is an for us, it's perfect. And that just says to us, we laud our recruitment policy. We lauded that every player that comes in is this fighter, like Luis Diaz has just come in as well. He's an absolute fighter as well. And now we got another guy coming in who's having a reputation of never giving up, fighting through adverse times in his past. Luis Diaz has a totally different story in terms of, how poor his family was and how he's had to fight, poverty and stuff. It's a different fight, but it's a fight that you have to, you do respect him for where he's come. And then now Nunez has had personal problems with his injuries, and he was ready to give up, and he's still come back and now probably be looking after his brother instead of his brother looking after him. He's going to be on some big money now. He can look after everybody and pay back now for his brother and say, look, mate, get your house over in England, or over you come. You can enjoy your life. But you know what I mean? It's just that the good guys, and the people that look after you, this is how you pay them back. And I think he's going to get a chance to do that. And like you said, mentality monsters, it just seems our recruitment seems to find the right players to fit the team, to fit the Klopp mentality. Never give up. Doesn't matter what the result is. Never give up. And what the scoreline is in the game, just keep going, and you will, the dividends will follow. It'll pay up. And if he's that type of player, like you're saying he is, then he suits us. He fits us like a glove. Like I said to you, I think he's going to start like fire, and he's not going to stop. And it just feels right. Alvaro, it just feels right.
It's really interesting that you're saying that, actually, the whole feeling. And I love that you mentioned the whole get stuck in aspect of English football culture, because in effect, when I noticed that, Suarez first went to Liverpool in 2011, a lot of Uruguayan fans were really, looking into Liverpool. They did know that Liverpool had this massive history, massive tradition. But one of the things that I think really united Uruguay with this team particularly was this sort of a way to identify with British football culture. So I mean, I don't know if this is known very much internationally, but, the older traditional football cultures in South America are generally Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, and Chile as well. So there was a lot of English, British particularly, like a lot of Scottish managers and coaches came. But I always felt that the spirit of British football culture sort of still permeates in specifically Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and I would say Chile as well. And the reason I say this is because, and I noticed this, I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything controversial, but a lot of the other countries in South America, they do not have this sense of, I would say, the same sense of longevity, right? Like 100-year tradition. They don't have this sense of get stuck in. So, for example, Uruguay's way of playing is, and Argentina as well, the player crashes in with his head to block a shot. That player is
you notice it more.
Greatest.
You notice it more with Uruguay and Argentina, for sure. For
sure. I noticed, but Argentinians, they still have it a lot. And you notice it a lot in their media, their press, even their players. They like to kind of like build themselves as like they're a tough, physical team. But then you speak to friends of mine, even I have a lot of Colombian friends then as well. And they hate those types of players. They rather like the more skillful. They don't like, even the players, you see them even, they don't like running as much and defending. And you'll see Valverde, for example, Cavani, like getting stuck in, coming back. And that's seen as something that you're raised as a child to do. But anyways, I've always felt that there's a sense of identity with Uruguay in general, but very specifically to Liverpool because of their history. And the one thing I noticed is this: when Uruguayans started going online around 2012, 13, and defending Liverpool, let's just say in the social media circles, often you'd notice the same jokes that fans in South America poke fun at Uruguay, other clubs would do to Liverpool. So, for example, oh, you guys are so obsessed with your history. I can't believe you guys have people in the streets talking about the 1965 European Cup semifinal between Liverpool and Inter Milan, for example. When in Uruguay, you literally have people discussing 1954, like out in the open. Like it's like
the World
everything thing. Kids are talking about 1940s derbies, classicos, and this just does not exist. Like, I have friends from, anywhere you can imagine. It's like they don't even know what happened 10 years ago in their football. Like, I'm actually not even exaggerating here. So there is sort of this, obsession, not obsession, but interest in history. And I really found that, the way that everyone kind of pokes at Uruguay, they also identify with the way that you'd have other clubs, you'd have just jokes, memes, for example, like, oh, Liverpool, when they last won the Premier League, and they would show like dinosaurs or something, right? Because it was 1991, I think it was, or, it was the early 90s when Liverpool last won every 4 o'clock.
Yeah, of course.
So there you go. So I think fans, they notice that, and they notice sort of this kinship, the, love for history, love for this particular spirit of the game. And anyways, and I think, for that reason, in particularly, and when I went to Liverpool, I loved it. It was just incredible. Just, you felt the football everywhere in the city. I went to the tour in Anfield. The tour guy was mesmerizing. She was wonderful. You could see the employees of the club, the guy just opening the gate would tear up, just talking about the 80s. And I would just ask him questions. I mean, really, really, you can, there's football cultures and there's football cultures. And I think Uruguayans, when they discovered Liverpool, it was just, wow. Like, they felt almost like, where have you been our whole lives? Like, I can't believe that this is the first time these two.
It's like a perfect union, isn't it? It's the perfect union. Talking to you is just amazing. It just feels right. Everything just feels like, Uruguay fans and Liverpool fans, just two peas in a pod. And it just feels perfect. I love that you're wearing this Liverpool shirt. Honestly, it's put a smile to my face, how passionate Uruguay fans are about where their players go and where they play. And it just transitions really into the next question about how do Uruguayans yourself or Uruguayans back home feel about Darwin Nunez, and what's their views on him, or what, if you've got any information on how he's viewed by people, that would be great.
Absolutely. Well, so when I mentioned a little earlier that Oscar Tabarez, he spoke about the media being very difficult with him. That was, during his U20 days. So he would have been about 19, 18 at this point. So they were, the thing was, they were just difficult with it because, he showed a lot of fallacies that I suppose youth players might show, like a weak touch, maybe a strong touch, for example. He just didn't seem like a complete player, but then all of a sudden he'd turn and score like a half volley top corner. So, I think people didn't really know where to put Darwin. Like, he seems like he has this massive potential, but you see him struggling in what would seem like basic aspects of the game. So eventually, he started improving. And I think the moment that everything started changing was when he started banging in the goals in Almeria. That was the big moment. And even on Almeria, he did get called up for Uruguay, and he ended up actually scoring in Lima against Peru. Came on in the 75th minute and scored about 5 minutes later. It was like a first post corner. I think he just beat the defender in position. It was a great goal, actually. So from that point onwards, I think that's when people really start saying, okay, this guy, he seems like he could be very good. He's very fast. He fights for the ball. He has the right attitude. Let's see where it goes. And from there, I think the impression has been just very positive. It's just people have kind of set up an expectation of Darwin. Where should he be at this point? Is he going to be as good as Suarez or Cavani? If he is, should he be here? And the thing is, he's pretty much checked off most of the, scenarios set up by either the fans or the media. So in a way, everyone's very, very positive about Darwin. I think the most positive moment was he scored an amazing goal against Colombia in Barranquilla. This was about a year and a half ago in the World Cup qualifiers. I recommend it. It's the third goal for Uruguay. It's tremendous. Like, the ball's just bouncing about 30 meters from the net. It looks like he's just dribbling and just lets off a shot. Phenomenal. So ever since then, Darwin has been always great. And although he hasn't, maybe exploded yet, like, maybe Suarez or Cavani did. And, honestly, Suarez and Cavani, it took him about a year or two to really start scoring for Uruguay. So, the fact is, Darwin he could be a starter. He's very, very liked by, pretty much every Uruguayan fan. And there's a lot of hope and expectation from him. And I don't know, it just seems like he's grown as fast as people wish or hoped he would have. He definitely did it this year. And I think the Champions League was also a big test. So now the whole Liverpool thing is obviously taking it to another level. It's happening very fast. That's the thing. It's like one stage to the next very quickly. So it's kind of like, wow, we're here now. It's, almost difficult to kind of contain yourself, but at the moment, everything seems very exciting and very promising. So that's, in my view, from what I've seen, the general consensus.
And it seems like he's just being readied, because the other two, the two legends that are before him, are just on their way out or close to being. And if, they do go to the World Cup, both of them, because a lot of people saying that these might be their last games. But if they do travel on to Qatar, then he's going to be there with them. He gets to experience all that time in a competition format with them. Maybe he gets to make his name in the competition with them, and then that's kind of passing the torch, right? Ready now that he's come to Liverpool as well. There's going to be a lot more focus on him, and there's going to be a lot more pressure to play him because he's playing at one of the giants. And if he gets to start playing and scoring, and his club form level at a big club starts banging them in the Champions League, for example, it's hard to ignore, right? Very hard to ignore for a manager and for press, because literally Uruguayan press will be all over the manager. Why isn't Nunez starting, mate? So all those things could be happening at that point when they get there. So it's going to be interesting to see, but it's nice that he's got these. I mean, it's understandable that he's third in a list of strikers if those two are still there, because it's going to be very hard to drop. That's why, even because of their age, it's still going to be very hard to drop. Like I said, there's a young pretender on his way, and it must be quite exciting actually from your point of view for your national team. So that's brilliant. Okay, lastly, what are your views actually on the deal itself? Isn't it's going to be 100 million euros. We like to convert it to pounds over here, so it's actually an initial fee today announced by Paul Joyce where we're recording on the day we're recording, 64 million pounds, and I think it's around 21 million pounds in add-ons. Majority, I think 12 of those in in appearance bonuses, and then the rest in obviously team bonuses, so what the Liverpool team achieves. So I think if in appearances, getting up to 60 appearances, I think is very possible. So getting 12 million on top of that, so it's going to be around 76 million, which will go above Van Dijk with the appearances, so it does become, with the guarantees on there, he's going to play 60 games, let's be honest, he will. So it will be 76 million when that happens, but for now it's 64. So a lot of people have been saying, it's 100 million pounds and this, that. It's not. It's 64 million pounds plus 21 million in bonuses. So still a major fee, a massive fee. So what's the feeling like on that side of the world?
Well, it's dizzying almost. That's just being thrown around, honestly. But the view. The view is, I don't know how to, like you're saying, how are they viewing this in Uruguay and in the media or the fans, right? I'm assuming.
Yes.
Well, the one thing, the first thing they mention is the percentages. So, for example, Peñarol owns part of his transfer, and I believe they're getting like a substantial percentage from that. And I think Almeria owns it as well. So they're that's one of the first things that they did mention. Essentially, is if the price is inflated, therefore the other clubs will benefit, etc. In general, I don't know. It's just I think what I did mention earlier is something that I've at least seen around. I don't know if it's a prominent concern, but just the idea that generally, I don't know, I just find that I'm almost a little nervous. I find fans sometimes can, especially in the Premier League, and I notice this following a lot of leagues, is that, Liverpool is different though, but a lot of clubs don't give players a lot of time to adapt, or maybe they'll expect, because of this, very, very high transfer, that, he must be already ready. Like he must be right now ready to go and just absolutely just tear up the Premier League immediately. So the thing is, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, but that's just a worry I have personally, but honestly, that's just if he does. I think everyone just has that general worry. What if he doesn't do well? To be honest, I had the same worry about Suarez in Barcelona. It actually took Suarez several months to grab his first goal, and he was even performing decently. He was actually doing pretty awful for the first 4 months, I would say, or just mediocre. He wasn't doing great. So I don't know. These fears I have are just they could be unfounded. They're just my own personal.
I love though, and that's nice. It's you don't want anyone to. You want him to do well, and you don't want him to fail, and you're worried that the price tag weighs on a player. But I think at Liverpool, they're sheltered away from that type of stuff. They're sheltered away from that criticism. They're encouraged their teammates. The way that the team's built as well, it's very rarely there's not an ego in there at all, and that's one of the things that comes out of someone like James Milner did an interview in the FA Cup final weekend with Alan Shearer, and he came out and said there's literally not an ego. There isn't a dickhead, there isn't a dick in our camp. They all listen. They all are all about the team. Yeah, they've all got individual aspirations about what they want to achieve, but when it comes to it, it's team first, it's result first, it's us first, not me first, And, as long as I think he's young, so he will be following the guys that are there before him. He'll have a Mo Salah there, he'll have a Bobby there. He's going to have these kind of players around, and he's got a whole load of other South Americans there as well to help him. And, and Portuguese speakers too, in terms of he's been in Portugal. There's people that speak Portuguese at the club. And so he's going to feel straight away very much at home because of the amount of people that he's going to have supporting him. And he's going to have that structure in his game and in his life. And he's got a manager that cares. Oh. That's the key. He has a manager that cares,
You feel it, You feel it. Like I can say this from an outsider, seen every Premier League club, and you feel it. A club, like it literally seems like it means the world to him that his individual players, even his bench players, succeed or do well. And he almost seems like a teacher. Honestly, he seems like more than a manager, like a mentor. And it's I don't know. Yeah. You see what the way the players react to him as well. It's amazing.
It's funny because people keep saying, why do all these signings that come in keep working? Yeah. Because of the culture as well. The recruitment's great. But the culture built in the club allows them to go and become great, to go and become what they have the potential to be. It's not a culture that keeps people down. It's not a culture that, presses anyone in a corner. It lets you roam free. It lets you go and express yourself. And for me, that's a beautiful thing. And I'd never want this era to end, Alvaro, I'll be honest, because that's something that I'm very proud of as a Liverpool fan, is that these players come in and they just come in and they be great. Luis Diaz came in January, ended up winning 2 trophies and had a chance at 2 others that we just missed out on, missed out on. Yes. And he was able to come in and express himself. And he was doing all the flicks and tricks and stuff. It was unbelievable. But that's with him not speaking the language, not being able to communicate, but he felt it straight away that it's okay. His best mates are like Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott, who don't speak Portuguese, and he doesn't speak English. What does that tell you? Crazy, right?
That goes a long way. It really does, for sure. I mean, sometimes with friends we discuss, like, where would you rather go, Liverpool or this club, for example? And, I think fans read about this as well. Like, they know, a lot of my Colombian friends, by the way, they've just talking marvels about Liverpool and their culture. They love the way he's been treated. So right now, I mean, you can imagine millions of Colombians right now are supporting Liverpool, but Uruguayans have actually seen players not just not do well at clubs, but you hear about toxic environments at clubs. Not to mention, I mean, obviously there's external factors right now with the results they've been having, but obviously Manchester United, I mean, things have actually kind of imploded in a way that, even players started to speak out. And the thing is, Cavani, he recently played there, he didn't leave under the best of, I think, circumstances. In a sense, I think things were a little bit tense when he left, especially throughout the season. But then again, like, you hear about these things, the politics at several clubs throughout the years. And then you find out, I mean, when Suarez was at Liverpool, I mean, it was, you would not, any interview, I wish you guys could actually see this stuff. There was a wonderful show for Uruguay where this reporter goes in and he just walks with Suarez and Coates throughout the city, and they just talk marvels about the club in the city. I mean, if I could actually, maybe one day I'll find that clip and translate it, do subtitles, because I don't know, that stuff I think goes a long way and the fans really listen. So we know for sure. I mean, it's kind of funny. I feel like almost right now, when it's like when a nervous parent is dropping off their child at like a boarding school or a very, very fancy like institution. And then I feel like Liverpool's right now going, don't worry, Alvaro, we're going to take care of them. Trust me. Everyone loves it here. This is great. I'm like, I know you love them. We're going to take care of them. You're going to take care of them. So I do feel very reassured, to be honest, particularly just being Liverpool. That's what it is. Liverpool has grown so much into, like you said,
deja vu for me, because this is the same conversation I had with Tom Kundert for Diogo Jota when he joined 2 seasons ago, and he was saying the same thing. I'm just really worried. Will he get time to play? Will he get in the team? What's going to happen? He's too good not to play. I need him to be at a team where he's going to play, because he's going to give so much to Portuguese national team. And, he was like really protective over Jota, and I was like, don't worry, he'll get a chance. We need players. We need players to rotate. They're getting tired. The front three are knackered. We need players. And look at Jota last season. And, granted, he didn't have a great end to the season, but damn, him and Mo to start the season were on fire. And we don't get into the position we are at the end without those two. People forget that a lot. And so Jota's been an incredible success, an absolutely incredible success. So if there's anything to go by and your feelings, and then they echo and mirror what Tom Kundut's were from a Jota perspective, we've been here before. And so it feels like we've been here before with somebody else, and it's going to be the same. I have a feeling it's going to be the same result where he explodes onto the Premier League scene, and he rivals Haaland. And Mo Salah's going to love having a big guy to play with, because him and Zeko were awesome back in the day when they were at Roma. So I think they're gonna.
Yes. It's funny. My father, years ago, my father was actually one of the ones who pointed out, like, Salah used to play with Chelsea. Yeah, he's playing at Roma. He's ripping it apart. You got to see him. He's incredible. I'm like, really, Salah? I'm like, isn't he like 25, 26? Like, at the time, just remember thinking, like, wow, well, why hasn't anyone picked him up? And lo and behold, Liverpool, bam, explodes, obviously. So as we all know what would happen. But the fact that I think the Uruguayan fans will get to enjoy Liverpool again is massive again. And I'm actually very excited to see that in general. I remember just those 3.5 years Suarez was there. It was just all over the social media, the websites, the forums, whatever it was, the Anfield rap, etc. You would just have a lot of, I don't know, just people just really enjoying just following Liverpool in general. I think it's literally one of the two best teams in the world right now. And I mean, it's really a dream come true. Just to watch this particular team. I think you were saying you don't want this era to end. I think football fans don't want this era to end, because this club team is phenomenal. And it's just building upon already an incredible legacy. And it's just, I don't know, everything is sort of set up for just a lot of excitement, and I cannot wait. It's too bad it's summer right now. We still have to wait another 2 months, but very, very much excited for this as well.
We welcome all Uruguayan fans with open arms back to supporting Liverpool and their player. So absolutely cannot wait for this love affair to rekindle in the following years, and it will be around for a long, long time this time, I think. Long time. So I hope so
too, and I hope you guys see a lot of like flags and stuff and fans. I mean, like before, I remember seeing people, when Suarez was there. I remember the Suarez song as well was so catchy. So we'll see if there's another Darwin version of that song, of course. They just can't get enough song.
No, there'll be a new one. There'll be a new one. There's people already doing. There's people always doing. Oh, Darwin, stand by me.
Oh no, way! No, the Suarez song became like it was Uruguay. No, it was people loved it. They loved it. Was singing.
Hey, they loved it. Liverpool. They were so upset to lose it. It's one of the bangers.
Yeah. It was very bouncy. The cop, it was very like everyone just got really into the whole stadium. It was wonderful.
So the strikers, the key strikers for Liverpool over the last few years, you had Torres, then you had Suarez, then you had Bobby. They've all had an unbelievably bouncing song. Like, fans went nuts. There's one common denominator. The songs were like, if you're involved in the song in a stadium and you're in the middle of it, or you're in a tunnel or something and walking, getting out the stadium or whatever in the corridor, it is bounce. Oh man, so if they can do something for Darwin, something similar, it would be it's just gonna be, it's a lot of fun. Liverpool fans love doing this type of shit. And it just, that's what elevates players too, right? The songs that come out, and the Jota song is so good, so there's it's the latest one. So again, Klopp's got a song now, an even better one. So it's just, we love it. So more new players, more new songs, and just more fun for fans and the players themselves. So I mean, that's everything from my side. Alvaro, is there anything else we've missed, you think?
Oh, I do not believe so. I was just looking over my notes right now, and no, I think we've covered at least the questions that I had written down. Covered all of that. So I think from my end, I am good as well.
Superb. Where can they follow you? Just remind all the Liverpool fans where they can follow you.
If anyone wants to follow just any updates, particularly obviously with update news on Darwin Nunez, it's at Uruguay Foot ENG. It's on Twitter, and you can still find that obviously if you just search that up, Uruguay Football English on YouTube.
Thank you so much for your time today. And I've had a blast talking to you for the last 55, 56 minutes or whatever, however long it's been, but it's been superb. And it's so nice to get the excitement from you. Has made me even more excited about the transfer. And it's just great to speak to someone like that. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me, Gags. And honestly, the time flew by. So I really, really enjoyed that. So all the best. And hopefully we'll talk soon sometime.
We absolutely will, and I'll be tweeting you as well when he scores, and we can discuss things like that and react to the goals on Twitter together. So that'll be fun. But thank you so much again, and everybody. This starts the big big Darwin Nunez content push that we're going to have. This will be, we've already talked a little bit about it, me and Dave, on the last Old School, but we kind of, it was a link and it wasn't confirmed. It's pretty much there now. Needs a medical, or maybe by the time you listen to this, when we release this, the next 24 hours, it's already done. And if it is, wow, what a great day this is. Thank you once again to Alvaro, and you guys are in for a treat. There's lots more of this, lots more excitement. And yeah, I can't wait for the season to start, or at least pre-season, to see him don that Liverpool shirt on a pitch. It's going to be amazing. Keep listening to Anfield Index. If you're not in our Discord server, get in there, anfieldindex.com/Discord. And yeah, we'll see you in there. And welcome to Liverpool, Darwin Nunez.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.